On today's episode of the Broadway Shuffle, Texas Tech goes 2-0 in big games against Arizona and Cincinnati, and we look ahead to what this means for the rest of the Big 12 season. That and much more next on the Broadway Shuffle. Okay, welcome to episode 46. I can't believe we have made it this far. It's crazy that we are hitting our 50th episode coming up soon. With Conrad, Clayton, and Zyler, I'm Brennan. We hope all of you are having a great week celebrating Texas Tech coming off a big win against Arizona at home and then a tough road win at Cincinnati. And we look ahead to the Cowboys coming into Lubbock on the 26th as well. We'll get into a little bit of some NFL discussion with Patty Mahomes taking on the Bills and the look around Big 12 basketball as well. So if this is your first time joining the Broadway Shuffle, we are glad you are here wherever you may be, however you may be listening. Welcome to the show. We would love if you would like this video and subscribe to our channel because it helps us out, gets us in the ether. But if you follow along, guys, I cannot talk. If you follow along on Apple or Spotify as well, that would be great. I am battling a pretty staunch cold to give myself some, slack here. So I apologize to our listeners, but I am struggling today. But nonetheless, There's no time off for the Broadway Shuffle. So someone else start talking so I can.
Brennan, I'll help plug. My children would love to eat 3 square meals a day. So if you could subscribe and like the video, that would go a long way in helping me feed my family. So do it for the kids, as they say. That's what we're looking for.
Gosh, that had to be my worst intro ever. But hey, when you're battling a cough and a fever and you're about to hop to a flight to Buffalo, it's pretty tough here these days. So
who are you going to see up in Buffalo?
Oh man, I booked a trip, just kind of going out there to see maybe if I could see my boy Josh Allen, but not looking, like he's going to be there. He's got a big game, I guess, in Kansas City this weekend, which we'll get into in a little bit. So no, I've got some stuff going up, and I've got some business to attend to in upstate New York.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, of course. Clayton, me and you were at the Arizona game, man, on Saturday. Ton of fun being back in Lubbock.
Yeah.
What was your reaction from being inside the USA and watching us, honestly, pretty single-handedly dominate Arizona for most of that game and really take care of business? How much fun did you have being back in the USA, and what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, that was awesome, man. I feel like the atmosphere there was probably the best of the year. Obviously, I know that's my only game that I've been to, but it seemed like over the break, which makes sense, the students aren't there. The energy's been a little lower than what we were used to from the USA, but definitely not the case on Saturday. In my mind, that's probably your best win of the year. You've had some tough road games, but Arizona is definitely the best team that you've beaten so far. They have a lot of talent. So to see you really stifle them in the last 5 minutes and go on that, I think it was 17-2 run or whatever it was to close out that game. And then honestly, I know I'm looking ahead, but you kind of did the same thing to Cincinnati on Tuesday as well. So it's really good to see the team, because I know that was one thing that we struggled with last year was the kill shot runs. We were one of the worst teams in allowing those and creating those for ourselves. So I feel like that's one thing that's really flipped from last season to this season, which is good, because if you can, a couple 10-0 runs in one game and you're probably winning that game.
Yep.
So
it's something like every team that goes on a 10-0 run in a game, they win 80% of the time or something like that. So, and we were giving those up like they were candy last year. We would just let you have one.
I'm pretty sure Houston had 3 of those in that one game against us.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It was a combination of not being able to get stops and also not being able to score. Deadly combo when you're trying to win basketball games.
Z, you're seeing now with this team too, speaking of kind of making runs, you're kind of seeing this offense kind of start to gel a little more. I know D5 struggled a little bit this week, but Elijah Hawkins, Christian Anderson, guys, we've talked about the guard play, really stabilizing itself, becoming more aggressive. These guys are starting to do that, and it's paid dividends for your offense. How exciting is it for you to kind of see some of these guards come up and this offense start to gel a lot more? It just looks like they're playing well together. Not a lot of thinking going on the basketball court right now for the Red Raiders.
Yeah, I think you've really hit a stride offensively. And one of the great things, and one of the things that I think could take you really far in March, with this team is you have a number of different ways that you can win offensively. You've gotten two pretty big stinkers from Darion Williams the last two games, and you knocked off a top 15 team in KenPom in Arizona at home, and then you knocked off a top 40 team in Cincinnati on the road. And you got bad games from one of the best players in the Big 12, and you still found ways to be elite offensively. That Cincinnati defense was top 10 in the country, and you went 1.23 points per possession. That is scorching hot. You've got Kevin Overton that's contributing. Sometimes it's Federico. Now it's Toppin, and then it's Christian Anderson. And sometimes, like you did on the Utah trip, you get Hawkins going nuts. And you have a lot of different ways that you've been able to scheme guys buckets. And Chance McMillan, you just have all of your guys on the floor, even Federico, such a good lob threat. They're offensive threats. Last year it felt like Joe really wasn't a scorer. You needed Pop to have a really good game. You needed Warren Washington to get a lot of dunks. There just wasn't. You needed Darian to do some things, and Chance could help you out. But I feel like the offensive identity here, we just have a number of ways to come out of defense, and I've been really, really impressed by that.
Conrad, it must be nice for you seeing your boy Kevin Overton play well. Your favorite player, KO. He was sharp against Cincinnati, and he's been a key component to your bench success.
Yeah, KO's had his up and downs, just like I think every player has on this team so far, to be honest. If you think about Elijah's start to the year, it wasn't exactly what we had thought. JT played really well, then he was hurt, then he had a couple down games. You've had a roller coaster in terms of the individual performances on this team, but over the last week or so, you've really seen them gel together and play their best basketball of the year so far. That Arizona win is a huge win, like has been mentioned, and also going on the road and being 4-0 on the road now in Big 12 play. I understand that, you did beat Utah and BYU, which probably going to finish towards, middle to the bottom, especially in Utah's case. But being 4-0 on the road and playing the way you're playing right now, I just think it's the future's bright. And that's one thing I think we've said on the show throughout the season is, we didn't play as well as we could have against certain teams earlier in the year. We didn't play as well to open Big 12 play, obviously, against UCF at home. And then, you kind of give the Iowa State game away. But looking at these two games against Arizona at home and then Cincinnati on the road, and the way you're playing together and what you can do in terms of all the threats you have, things are just looking really, really good for this team. And I'm excited to see what happens over the next couple weeks with some pretty winnable games, games that I would expect us to win. I think you guys would say the same as well.
Yeah, one thing that I do want to make sure that I talk about, on your last little win streak that you've gone on, and I want to make sure that we acknowledge this so when it goes badly, we're not too upset. In your 5 Big 12 wins, your opponents have shot 26% from 3, 21%, 30%, 16, and 21. So, you've gotten a little bit fortunate there. You've played some teams that aren't great 3-point shooters like Cincinnati, but also you're fortunate against BYU. They missed so many. I'm really excited what we're doing offensively. I do think our defensive rise is maybe a little bit paper tigerish. I think you're playing a lot better. Your rotations are a lot better. I'm not going to deny that. You've been getting fortunate, though, on guys missing 3-pointers, and that's something to watch moving forward.
Which, to be fair, Z, we weren't having that happen earlier in the season. It seemed like every guy that shot 12% from 3 was shooting 65% against us. So it's nice to kind of have the ball bounce out of the rim for you for once. But yeah, a question. It's interesting watching this offense because when Grant came over, we've talked about this, but he wasn't necessarily known as an offensive minded coach. He was more of the defense, grinded out type guy. But this offense, I love the motion we're using. I love how he's kind of allowing freedom for the guards to create. It's like you rarely see him kind of get frustrated at a bad shot because these guys don't take many bad shots, Clay.
They really don't.
Like they really do try to find the most effective shot and they stay aggressive and play well together. And when we do get all of our guys playing well for a spurt, it is scary because we can go without a D5 or go without an Elijah or a Chance or even a Top in there for a while and still grind out wins. That's a sign of a team that can win in March.
Yep, you're exactly right.
Sure. Yeah. We have so many options, and I love to see the progress of these players individually from Grant, either coming into a system in year 1 or from year 1 to year 2. You look at Joe Toussaint last year, I think his his season high points average at West Virginia was like 7.5. And then he comes to Tech. He's a huge offensive contributor, and then Chance McMillan being in college for either 3 or 4 years already and rising to the player that he is like this late in his career is extremely rare. So that's something that's super promising, not just for this season, but for going forward under Grant.
Yep.
And go ahead, Zyler. Well, something I don't think we've maybe mentioned enough on this show is, when we talked about this offensive rise of this basketball team, how much of it has to do with Jeff Linder coming over from Wyoming. I mean, he was a great offensive coach there at 143 wins, if I'm correct, but him joining the staff known as an offensive coach and seeing this drastic offensive improvement that we've seen from Grant in year 1 to Grant in year 2. Now, I'm not saying that Grant's not a fantastic coach at all. I'm just saying when you have an assistant like him who's known for his offensive prowess, I guess you could say, that's got to make a huge difference as well in terms of what you see from a schematic standpoint, from the motions and sets that you're running.
Yeah, the two things that that are signs of good coaches. This is something that I've always thought about Mike Gundy. It's like, can you win in a variety of different ways over the course of your career? His teams with, he's just won in so many different ways. And then the other thing is, are you willing and can you consistently replace your good coordinators with good coordinators? You see a lot of guys that have like kind of one-shot years, and it's just because they had a really good defensive coordinator, a really good offensive coordinator, or in basketball, you had a great mind that got replaced. Like Dave Smart, for example, you lose him and he goes to Pacific, and they're, winning games at Power 5 teams on the road now, and he replaces him with a sitting head coach, and the offense doesn't miss a beat. That's something that I think is the sign of a great coach, or kind of those two things.
When you're looking at this team and what's ahead of you for Oklahoma State, I mean, this is a team that's not, one of the best in the conference. It's a home game. It's a Sunday at 2:00, but you have an opportunity to string together some key wins here. I mean, this is your first week where you've had back-to-back home games at home. So you get Oklahoma State followed by TCU, and you're looking at who's also not, one of the top teams, though they did just beat Baylor. So you never really know what you're going to get in the Big 12, but this is a big opportunity for you to create some cushion, to get to 7-2, and then also potentially look at, you're 7-2 halfway through the slate. I mean, you're in the conversation for a Big 12 title. Clay, do you think this team has the ability to compete for a Big 12 title now that you've seen them, here through 7 games in conference? I know it's early, but I don't want to pour Kool-Aid down your throat just yet. But is it realistic to think that this team could win a Big 12 title?
I think it is realistic. I wouldn't say that we're the best team in the Big 12 or even a top 2 team, but I do think after, you get past Iowa State and Houston, I could see an argument for Tech being the 3rd best team, and, the best team in the conference doesn't always win it. But you're exactly right. Like, you got to win these next 2. I think, we'd all love to have the UCF game back, but we'd all also probably take 5-2 at this point in the season. And then if you call it 7-2, we'd all take it even faster. So if you can get to February at 7-2, you definitely have a shot. I don't know Iowa State's and Houston's record off the top of my head, but I'd put money on one of them too. But after that, I think I could see Tech being right there.
Yep.
Conrad? Yeah, and Iowa State's 6-1, and then Houston's 6-0, and we obviously don't get Iowa State again. We lost that game to them at home, but we get Houston twice. Not sure if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, it's an opportunity.
I wish we didn't play them.
I wish we played them once, but at the same time, you do have 2 shots, and you should have beat, Iowa State if you hit some free throws late. So, Brennan, I want to answer that question as well. I'm not sure if you were asking it of all of us or just Clayton, but this is a team that you see a lot of growth from, and you've only seen improvement as the season's gone on. You've seen them play together. You've seen us play through Darion stinkers, I guess you could say. And so to think about where you've improved also defensively, I think you have over the last week and a half. You just never know what can happen. I mean, you're one injury away on a Houston or Iowa State team from them dropping a couple games too. I mean, you never know what can happen. So if you just keep taking care of business, like if you get through Oklahoma State and TCU pretty handily, if you beat them by double digits, which I think you can, especially being at home with those 2 teams, there's nothing that's out of the realm of possibilities if you get to February at 7-2. So I definitely think it can, but at the same time, I also don't want to get my hopes up, because thinking about playing Houston twice just makes me want to curl up into a ball and cry for a little bit, because those may be 2 tough games, but I hope they prove me wrong, and they very well could.
What record do you guys think wins the Big 12 this year? I feel like it's
because you played 20 games.
Yeah, I think 16
and 4.
That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, I would also say 16-4.
Yeah, I could see 15-5, but it's just like Houston's what? So what are they now? They're 6-0. They're 6-0.
Yeah,
they're 6-0. And so do you Yeah, do you see them going like 11-5 over their next, like
9-5.
9-5? Yeah, 9-5. Like,
Oh yeah.
No.
I don't see that happening. Like, who are the
Yeah,
5
I
teams that are
agree.
knocking Houston off? Like,
Yeah.
who are the 4 teams that are beating Houston? It's Texas Tech twice, but who are the other 2 teams after that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and
I don't know.
they have to play. They play Iowa State at home, but do they play Iowa State on the road?
And
they only
their
have
big
Iowa
games
State
are at the
once.
end of the year. Their big games are at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
In
They have
March, they have Kansas at home, and then they go at Baylor on the 8th of March as well.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's tough.
Z, what does this mean as we transition into bracketology for you? What are you looking at? You know, we like to give a weekly update. I know you might think it's early out there, but the bracketologists are humming and moving even in January. Weekly it changes, so you can tune in here to make sure you get all of your bracketology updates for Texas Tech from Zyler. So Z, what has this 5-2 stretch in the Big 12 done for you up to this point?
Yeah. I mean, if you follow us on Twitter, I recommend that. I typically do after our games. I'll post from bracketologist.com. You know what our predictive metrics look like. So that's Ken Palm, Bart Torvik, and then I forget what the other one. BPI, ESPN's BPI. And so that's how good do they think you are as a team. And then there's the results based metrics, and those are wins above bubble. That's the KPI index, and then that's the last one, strength of record. And so you've gone from like the low 70s up into the low 30s to low 30s, low 40s. Like you've bumped your resume average up like 30 plus spots in the last 2 weeks. So you've had an absolutely monster week, from being on the outside looking in after the UCF game to being very firmly like a 7 or a 6 seed right now. So still a lot of basketball left to be played, but you have given yourself a lot of wiggle room if your goal is solely making the tournament as the last team in. I know that's not the goal. I think this team could get maybe to the 5 line. I mean, if things really go well, I think you could make it all the way to the 4 line. But this is a historically strong basketball field. The SEC is going to send some really good teams that are going to have 8, 9, 10, 11 Q1 wins. You're at 4 right now. So those are tough to come by. But you've done yourself a lot of favors. Beating Arizona, beating Cincinnati, those are absolutely huge wins for you.
That's awesome. Well, all you got to do is keep moving. As a guy that I've heard speak, you got to win one day at a time. I hear, that's my new favorite quote. And I heard that from a guy that will be dropping a sneak peek interview of on Monday, actually. So make sure you tune in for that. That's all I'll say on that. Okay, well, let's transition into some college football real quick with the national title game. It was kind of weird. It was a peculiar game. Like Notre Dame goes on this crazy drive to start the game, and Ohio State then scores 31 unanswered. Then Notre Dame just kind of fights back at the end. But it felt a little odd. Like it didn't feel like a national title game, in my opinion, as much. I don't know if it was like just the team, like Notre Dame being in it, because you never really think they have a shot at winning. What was y'all's thought on the national title game? And then, were you surprised at the outcome? Z, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I mean, the Ohio State built one of the most expensive rosters ever assembled, so them winning is not necessarily a surprise. It did feel weird. It feels weird having the game on a Monday, and then 2, just this late into January. That just feels really odd to me to have college football still on. It felt like it should have been done like at the beginning of the new year, like January 6th or something like that. I mean, I'm sure if I was a Ohio State or Notre Dame fan, it didn't feel weird at all. You were probably really locked in on college football, but I shifted to college basketball like a month ago. It's just weird to me that college football was still happening, but I don't know if that sentiment is shared by other people.
No, I agree. I feel like they need to move the title game off of a Monday, in my opinion. I know they don't want to put it on an NFL day, but it just doesn't feel right playing on a Monday whenever you haven't done that the rest of the season.
They only play 2 divisional games. They play Saturday and Sunday. Like play it at noon. Like that would, I know that's not ideal. You'd love to play it at night, but like it feels like it should be on a Saturday.
Yeah, Conrad.
Yeah, a Saturday night game would be epic. I mean, if they could just start at maybe noon for the NFL playoff games. I know the NFL will never bow to college football. Roger Goodell would never even consider doing that, but that would be cool if they could play it a Saturday night at 7:00 and have like a game day show. Even though they did that anyway, but have it in the morning and then have all day to wait for it. Yeah, I thought it was a good game. I mean, not a good game necessarily. The end made it interesting, but did not surprise me at all that Ohio State won. As I've been vocal about on this show. I think it's absolutely hilarious that the fan base that wanted to fire their coach after they lost to Michigan ends up winning the national title and beating some of the best teams, or thought to be the best teams in the playoff, with Tennessee, Oregon, and then Texas, and now Notre Dame. So they did a great job. I mean, it's really cool to see that, and I'm just so excited to be sitting here with you guys this time next year talking about how many national championship Texas Tech is going to win in the McGuire era after we grab our first next year. So it was a good game, but looking forward to next year already.
Yeah.
Or Z, go ahead.
No, I was going to transition into the NFL playoffs.
One more thing on college real quick. Dude, that loss to Michigan, I think you might have mentioned this earlier this season, Zyler, but that loss is literally keeping Ohio State from being known as like one of the best teams of all time.
Truly. Like they would have had, I mean, they dominated pretty much everybody.
And with the playoff, they played almost the entire top 10 and beat everyone.
Crushed Oregon, crushed Tennessee, crushed Texas, and like pretty much crushed Notre Dame.
Yep. Dude, the Ohio State loss to Michigan earlier this year is single-handedly keeping them from being known as one of the best college football teams of all time, like up there with 2019 LSU.
Yep, totally agree.
Yeah, well, and that's the benefit of what we saw in the playoff too. I think, it's like, okay, here's a team that loses 2 games. It's like, what team do we punish? Like, what other sport do we punish a team losing a game towards the end of the season that is completely dominant, that doesn't get in the playoffs? Like, if the Chiefs, lose their 5th game, they're not out of the playoffs and they still can get in and make the tournament. And I think the playoff, though it had some flaws on how teams got there, ultimately the best team won the championship. I mean, Ohio State was clearly the best team. The playoff provided that avenue, which is great for the sport. Now, how you want to get there or tinker it or who you want to put in is a whole other argument. But ultimately, the system, I think, worked in year 1. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, the one thing I don't love is that it's going to give all of these blue blood teams kind of like a do-over and a mulligan. And it's like, I love seeing other teams get a shot, but you're going to see the same cast of characters pretty much every year. Ohio State, Oregon, Texas. I mean, you would presume Alabama, a rotating cast of characters maybe in the SEC, but those are going to be the usual suspects. They're just not going to drop 2 to 3 games a year. And so they pretty much book their ticket into this event. Yeah. That's my only flaw. But if you're looking for the best teams, that I guess it's a pretty good way to do it.
Yeah.
It is kind of weird how like it flipped from one extreme to the other where, in the previous playoff, if you lost 1 game, it's kind of out of your hands. Yeah. Yep. And now, the Ohio State Michigan game really didn't even matter. So I don't know. I wish there was a medium, but I do think this is better than the old format.
I think I agree.
Yeah. Conrad, let's transition to the NFL playoffs super quickly because your boy, Texas Tech's boy, Patrick Mahomes, is in his 7th straight AFC championship game. We know what Pat means to you, obviously. And so give us a quick Chiefs predictions. Bills, Chiefs, who you got? Is Mahomes on his way to a 3-peat?
Yeah, Mahomes is on his way to a 4, 5, maybe 6-peat. I mean, this is a great place to be as a Patrick Mahomes fan and a honorary Chiefs fan. I don't know why you have to frame it like that in the sense of my boy. He should be your boy. You did watch him play, but you do have an affinity and a love for Josh Allen. So we'll let that pass. But I do think the Chiefs are going to get it done again. He's just mastered the art of winning. Andy Reid is a fantastic coach. This cast of characters just knows how to play together with Taylor Swift's boyfriend leading the charge at tight end for the Chiefs, and then Chris Jones and all those guys you've got. I mean, you've just got a lot of talent, and they obviously know how to win together. The only thing that's concerning to me just right now, thinking about the game, is the offensive line for the Chiefs. I mean, they've just had so many moving pieces. You have a left tackle that is really a left guard playing there in Joe Tooney. I mean, who knows what will happen? Bills and Chiefs is always absolutely epic. I will say I'm glad it's at Arrowhead, and I think Mahomes will be in his I guess his Super Bowl winning era, which he's always in, and he may never leave. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if Brennan, you have a different prediction for what's going to happen on Sunday night.
Dude, it's tough. And for our listeners, I don't want anyone here thinking like, oh boy, Brennan's a Bills fan, because, I am actually. You'd be right. Look, Josh Allen's my dynasty fantasy quarterback. My mom is from upstate New York. I've got family in the Buffalo area. And though I love Mahomes and will root for him if they beat the Bills, I love I love the Bills. I love Josh Allen, and I want to see him get it done. It's like, how devastating could it be to, go 0 for 4 against? It's like you go 0 for 4
Yeah.
in the 90s, you lose 4 straight Super Bowls, and now it's like you're going 0 for 4 against the Chiefs. You just can't get by. I think as much as I want the Bills to win, I don't see them beating Kansas City in Kansas City. So I'm going to pick the Chiefs. I'm going to root for the Chiefs. Just to be clear, disclaimer, I still love Pat, but my heart is more so with the Bills. I am not a Texas Tech Chief, as there are a lot of people out there. I root for Pat. I wish him well, but I didn't necessarily bandwagon them to the extreme like the 3 others on this podcast. So, Z, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this is going to be my odd and maybe not a hot prediction, but the Bills' run game is what I think may actually win them the game. Playing against the Broncos, who had a really good run defense, playing against the Ravens, who had a really good run defense, they had run success rates that were like extremely above average against those defenses. And the Chiefs have a good run defense, but I don't think it's as good as the Broncos. And I think it won't be Josh Allen; it'll be the run defense that maybe pushes them over the edge. That being said, Pat going to 7 straight conference title games is kind of ridiculous. That's like unheard of level of
to start a career too.
Yeah, like his floor so far in the postseason has been playing to go to the Super Bowl. That's like the worst that he's done. That's unbelievable. I'll be rooting for like 3 teams this year to win the Super Bowl. The only team that would suck to win it is the Eagles. I feel like that's the one team would be like, oh, what a disappointment. Like if the Chiefs don't win, I'll very happily root on the Bills. If the Commanders win and they're playing the Bills, I think I'll probably root for the Bills. And if the Chiefs win, I'd love for them to win. So kind of my takes there. I think it'll be a good game. I have no idea what's going to happen though.
I don't see, Clay, how it's crazy to like the Bills. Like, this is a blue collar team and a quarterback that's humble and works hard. Like, it's pretty easy to root for the Bills. You think the Bills are going to find a way to get it done, or is Pat too much to overcome for Josh Allen?
First off, I never said it was crazy to root for the Bills. I would only say it's crazy to root for the Bengals. But no, I think the Chiefs do win in a close game. I mean, I feel like the QB play between Josh and Pat is going to be pretty similar, and I think the rest of Mahomes' team is a little better than the Bills. Although I agree with Zyler that James Cook in the run game and Josh Allen running is a big problem.
Yep.
But I trust the Chiefs defense a little more than I trust the Bills defense.
Do you think there's like winner's fatigue if the Chiefs were to win this year? Like, I know they're already kind of the most, like they've kind of become like the 2019 Warriors in a way where they're now almost like the most hated team in the NFL, especially with the Taylor Swift stuff and all that. Do you think like they win the Super Bowl, this team, it's just like, please, anybody beat them? Like, anybody. Is that where it's headed, or is it already there?
I know exactly. It's jealousy. Like, as you know, I've rooted for the Cowboys, for almost all my life. It was such an easy transition to be a Chiefs fan because it's like, oh, look, like a competently run organization who gets to win all the time. Like, this is awesome. Yeah. But imagine being like a Raiders fan. It's like, how long am I going to have to watch this division rival pound us every year and keep winning Super Bowls? Like, I would be rooting for anything to happen but them winning, and I totally understand why people would feel that way.
Yeah, so I am completely biased. I cannot see clearly. I have rose-colored glasses on when it comes to the Chiefs because of not only Patrick Mahomes, but the Hunt family is just a good family. All the things you hear about Clark and how he runs that organization and treats his people are just fantastic. But I think, people, if you think back to the Bulls in the 90s, which all of us were not there for, but obviously we've watched The Last Dance, and so we understand all of the intricacies of that team and that franchise during those years. It seems like everybody there was a lot of people that maybe couldn't stand them and their success, but it feels like there was maybe a little bit more respect because everyone understood what they were watching in Jordan and the greatest player of all time. And I don't know that people have necessarily gotten there with Mahomes yet, because obviously it's a different sport, but Brady's obviously got the 7 rings, but Brady never played in 7 straight AFC championships. And so thinking about that, now Brady did beat the Chiefs twice, both with the Bucs and then with the Patriots as well. So I really don't know. I wish people could appreciate the Chiefs more, maybe for their level of success and also Mahomes's level of play. But I will say, and I'll throw a Pat criticism in here. That play that he tried to draw the flop on Sunday, the flag on when he did flop. Pat, we know you listen to the show. Man, don't do that again. The ridicule I've had to endure from that play is almost unbearable. So I think people do dislike the Chiefs, but I don't want the Chiefs to give them any more reasons to dislike them other than being very, very good.
I feel like that's how sports fandom has changed over the years from the 90s to now. It's like now, people love to hate on greatness. That happened to the Patriots, that happened to the Warriors. But like you said, you think back, and I don't think people hated the Bulls. People didn't hate the Lakers whenever they three-peated. Like, I feel like it's a new thing that's come with like social media sports fandom.
It is so much more fun to be a hater, though. I think that's because everybody can come together to hate on one team. Only one group of fans gets to root that team on. And so, and I wonder if time will I wonder if we'll look back on the Patriots and like enjoy them more. I think the further away I get from the Warriors, the more I like that team. But I don't know. Maybe time will help that a little bit. And maybe people really did hate the Bulls back then, but it seems like everybody looks back on them super fondly. I can't imagine a Pat Mahomes documentary 20 years from now about a three-peat and people just like going nuts over it. I just don't see that right now.
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing too with the Chiefs and even comparing them to the Warriors, I mean the Warriors were always flashy. I mean last year's Chiefs team, just calling that one to memory because it was the most recent, was not a flashy team. I mean Pat particularly didn't have that great of a season, but had to obviously beat the Dolphins, then went on the road to beat the Bills and then beat the Ravens and then obviously won the Super Bowl against the Niners. I mean, that season, I thought no one thought that they were going to do what they were going to do in the playoffs. I mean, I thought they were going to lose against the Dolphins. I'll admit that here publicly, but they weren't always flashy. And I think the Warriors were always flashy, which maybe contributed, and obviously Kevin Durant going over there and all those things. I mean, that maybe contributed more to people hating them because obviously it's a different sport and how it's set up. But these Chiefs teams, I mean, if you're a Swiftie and you like Patrick Mahomes, I mean, this is a dream,
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm not a Swiftie, and I can't stand. I know, shocking, right? And I can't stand Travis Kelce either. That's what's been hard for me is I don't like the Chiefs. I like Patrick Mahomes. Like I like the Hunt family, but I don't like a lot of the guys. I don't like Chris Jones. I don't like Travis Kelce. I don't like Rashee Rice. Like I like dudes that just want to. I understand that Travis is great, but I'm just not a fan of those guys. Maybe Taylor Swift. Maybe it's Taylor Swift. Maybe I just don't like Taylor
You're jaded,
Swift.
man. You're
Maybe
jaded.
I'm jaded. That might be it. Go Bills. Bills Mafia. I'm literally going to be in Buffalo on Sunday. So I'm going to be rooting for the Bills. Okay. Well, let's transition. Go ahead.
You've also got Cliff Kingsbury on as the Commanders OC.
I would much rather. I just want another team to win. Like I want the story. To be fair, like we talk about all these great quarterbacks, Jackson, and how you think they're bums, Conrad, because they can't get by Mahomes, they can't win the playoffs, and
they are.
Manning don't make me laugh, dude. Manning didn't win, until like year 9. Like he was like 3-6 in the postseason, and no one's sitting here saying that Peyton Manning is not a legendary quarterback. We got to give these guys time. What Mahomes has done has completely just changed your perception.
He's killed so many guys' legacy because they just don't you don't even have to win a Super Bowl, just getting there.
Yes.
Like everybody gives Burrow so much credit for being like a clutch quarterback just because he made the Super Bowl one time.
And he's beaten Mahomes. But because Josh and Lamar can't, they're not great. It's just
a bad argument.
It's a bad argument, and Conrad loves it because they're bums.
It's really convenient for my case that Mahomes is the best quarterback in the world by 10 billion miles. So I'm going to keep using it.
See, but that's the thing is, I don't think he is. I don't think he's the best quarterback by 10 billion miles. I think he's the best winner of this point. I think up to this point, he's been the best quarterback. I don't think he's necessarily the most talented quarterback by miles.
Well, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed Brennan Baxter on the Broadway Shuffle because this will be his last episode.
Hey man, I'm just trying to.
He will die up in Buffalo.
Brennan is going to die,
dude. The more I laugh, man, I can't even talk. This has been brutal, so I should not be having this conversation. Let's wrap up the show, because I need to get off.
Real quick. This is something. Or were you going to transition into our favorite transfer prospect?
I was going to go there.
I'll let you introduce it.
Yeah, I was going to say. Apparently, there was another rumor going around to close the show with some football stuff. Spring football is going to be right around the corner soon too, and a ghost of the transfer portal past might have been in Lubbock this week. Was a rumor going around, and I don't know what to make of this. Maybe he's just packing up his Bugatti that he left in a garage somewhere that he got through the NIL. I don't know. But Micah Hudson was seen in Lubbock. Thoughts on this? Any validity to a potential return, or what is this just the dude packing up? Like, where this is a never-ending story. It's driving me crazy.
Yeah, so if you're not subscribed to Red Raider Sports, you need to get over there and read the Micah Hudson thread because it is hilarious. Because one, you've got this really unique set of circumstances. You've got a clearly talented player that left Lubbock and everybody hates him and talk trash about him. And now there's, the rumors that he may be potentially looking at a return to Texas Tech. Now, nothing is set in stone and we don't know anything. We don't have any sources. All that we see is what we read on Red Raider Sports. And there's all this weird, guys that have clearly said, this dude's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. And it's like, well, maybe I would want him back. I think he's really talented. It's just such a funny dynamic. And it would be an all-time troll job for him to see Marcel Reed throw in one practice and decide, F it, I'm out of here. Like, I cannot deal with this. We don't have any sources here, so I don't know what's going to happen. But Micah Hudson was in Lubbock this past week. So we'll keep you posted.
Conrad, does this scare you? I mean, you've been pretty vocal. What if you got to start talking about how much Micah means to you now that he's back? What if he became a Red Raider again? What would happen there?
Micah who? Micah who? No, I would be absolutely shocked if he was returning. I would tend to agree with the experts that he is packing up all of his Bugatti, his Lamborghini, his Ferrari, and his Porsche that he got from Texas Tech and heading on down to College Station. I don't think he's going to return. I'm not going to let myself think he's going to return. I mean, if he wants to return, that's great. But at the same time, I just not going to even let myself buy it at this point. I think he just came to get some of his belongings.
That's a very reasonable take.
That is. Yeah. Clay,
very level-headed.
Clay, come on, Conrad. Clay,
you wanted something more?
Yeah, no. Which way are you leaning, Clay? Is Micah Hudson? Maybe he found a good, I don't know. Maybe there's better therapists in Lubbock than there are College Station. Maybe he needs to be back here.
Yeah, I don't know if I should respond to that one, but no, I don't. I'm with Conrad. I'd be surprised, and I'm not saying I don't believe the report, but I think it's just strange that he'd still be like packing up his stuff to move. Like, I think back to whenever I was in college and I had virtually nothing. Like, it would take me half
2
a day,
seconds.
Yeah, to pack all my stuff. So it's strange that he hadn't done that yet.
Yeah, but you weren't given an NIL bag either.
That's true. I didn't have the Louis Vuitton duffel and the other stuff that I had to come back for.
Well, you'd think that if you're making that much money on an NIL deal, you'd be able to pay somebody to pack up your stuff for you.
Counterpoint, he's a blue-collar, hardworking American who does stuff on his own.
Gosh, man, I'm so dumb. You're right.
Yeah, that sounds like him based off everything we've heard. So, well, whether it's true or not, if Micah becomes a Red Raider, we're going to support him with open arms. Again, I seriously doubt this is happening. You've already made the news in the portal. I bet he's just there. I'm not trying to, blow smoke anywhere, but it is kind of fun to talk about just because of, everything that this Micah Hudson drama had happened a month ago. But here we are still talking about him at the end of January.
And Micah, if you're listening to the show, which I know you used to be a listener, but I'm not sure if you still are, and you do decide to return to Texas Tech, please reach out to us. We would love to have you on the show to announce your return, or even if you want to clear the air about some things at Texas Tech, some rumors. You're more than welcome to come on the Broadway Shuffle. So just reach out to us, shoot a DM.
All right, boys. Well, that was a lot of fun. Hopefully everyone enjoyed that episode. We really don't even know how good it turned out because of the lagging. So we will do our best to edit this and hope give you guys an enjoyable experience if you're still listening. If you are still listening, look forward to an interview with Eric Gutierrez on Monday, the former All-American Red Raider, now coach, baseball player that made a huge impact on your university. We will be dropping his episode on Monday. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and follow all of our social media so you don't miss any content that we post in the link below. Z is always on Twitter, giving you good updates. And then you can find all of our stuff on our YouTube channel as well. So for Clayton, Conrad, and Zyler, I'm Brennan. We'll see you guys on Monday with Eric Gutierrez. Oh, and finally, we do have a winner of our college football playoff bracket challenge, Hanson Brown. This will be a good test, actually. We'll see if you listen to the whole episode, because this is the end of the episode and you have won. You will be getting a prize plus a 10 to 15 minute sit down with the Broadway Shuffle So if you are listening, comment below. If not, we'll reach out to you next time. But Recom Tech, congrats to Hanson. We look forward to having him on the show as well. So we'll see you guys next time on the Broadway Shuffle. Recom.